Artcasters, this is Brooke with Let's Talk Art. Today I'm talking art with Charlotte collage artist John Miles, who also goes by Trey. I talked with Trey on the VAPA episode. I was so blown away by his work, I knew I had to get him on again. He totally shattered my notions of what collage could be. We get into the nitty-gritty of collage, why all his pieces are untitled, why he goes by Trey, all the details. Now I am recording. Okay. Let me get this here. So how are you?
Doing pretty good. Literally just walked in the house. Of course, my daughter, again, did not remind me that she had a meeting after school. So I literally picked her up at 3:30. She got out at 3:30. So I'm literally just walking in the house. I was like, okay, let me, get the stuff ready.
Yeah, that's me with all of these, really.
Right. Yeah. Well.
So very cool. Well, first things first. You're the artist John Miles. Where's Trey come from?
Because I'm a third John.
You're the third John, so you did a differentiation. Right. Okay.
Right. So Trey is a derivative of 3. So
it is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So nowadays, when I was coming up, I was like the only Trey. I've made 2 other Treys. Now it's a common name now, but you don't see too many 40+ Treys.
No. There was a Trey in my class at school. And but I guess you don't see too many young Treys.
or their Trey, their name is just Trey. They're not a third something. So there's actually 3. There's 3 different type of Treys, and they're spelled 3 different ways. Believe it or not.
Yes. That's wild.
So basically, if you're named after someone, it's typically spelled Trey. If your name is just Trey, it's Tray. And if you're like a Travante or Trey Martin or something like that, then it's Tre with accent. And typically only Treys know that. But then some parents, of course, I'm sure don't know that and just whatever they like. But that's the way. Yeah, exactly. But that's how it's supposed to be.
I knew a Tre with an accent, but I think he just did that. I'm not really sure, but at least that's what I thought. I didn't know that was a legitimate thing. That's very cool. Oh wow, you learn something new every day. Okay, so anyway, back to your art, because you are fabulous. And when you said when you were on the podcast with Joanne, and you said you were a collage artist, I had in my head, he snips, stuff out of magazines and things like that, like collage artists. I just had this thing in my head, and then I looked at your work, and oh my gosh, it's like seamless. How do you do that? It's like magic.
Well, that was kind of the intent initially. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Romare Bearden, who is one of premier collage artists. Probably considered to be the best collage artist. But anyway, I didn't want to be Romare Bearden. I wanted to do something different. So I came up with the concept of trying to create a collage in a sense where you couldn't tell it was a collage. Okay. So I started calling them photorealistic collages, hyper-realistic collages. And I would make my cuts in a way where you couldn't tell that they were cuts. And it actually would fool people so much in a lot of cases, they thought it was photographs. And people would just kind of pass over the work because they just thought it was a photograph. So I had to actually start, making cuts not look so seamless. So people would know it was a collage. So I had to dumb it down a little bit.
And that's actually, that's kind of, I don't know if it's a little bit, I would say that's a testament to your talent, for one thing, and
appreciate it.
And I mean, because it's just like, wow. I mean, because it was just like I was flabbergasted because when you said, "Oh, I'm a collage," I said, "What kind of art do you do?" You're like, "I'm a collage artist." Of course, that's the collage is a thing, and that's you're an artist, but even like Romare Bearden, his stuff looks collagey. I mean, you can tell it's collage.
You're 100% correct, and that's what most collage artists do. They use Beard and some of the other collage artists from the past, and they just kind of just looks cut and paste, and it just looks like you said, collage,
which isn't bad, and it's a thing that,
bad,
and I like it, I like it a lot. And collage is one of my favorite, my favorite things. But I think you take it to a whole new level. I think it is realism,
right?
So I think that's. I mean, it's like when I was looking at your art, I was just like, whoa! I was like, this is insane. That's why I was like so excited to talk to you. I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic.
Appreciate you having me.
So how do you, like you said, there's a way that you cut that it looks like it's not. Can you share your secret?
I wouldn't really call it a secret per se, but it's you have to kind of see the vision first. I mean, because a lot of times, like I said, if I was using magazines instead of say my own photography, you're not going to necessarily get everything you need in a magazine. For instance, with the seams of the magazine, if you try to use a foot might be cut off or something. So I'm like, well, it won't look right if the person has a half a foot.
Right.
So now I got to find a way to make it look like it's supposed to be that way. So maybe I have to put something in front of the foot to hide the fact. So now it's having to be a basketball in front of the foot, or part of another person's from the foot, so you don't see that foot. So that's kind of how I started hiding stuff. So kind of like hiding stuff in plain sight to disguise the fact that something was not there. And that's kind of how it kind of started. And then from there, I kind of like, okay, well, if I cut around this way, I'll give this effect. If I cut around that this way, or cut in between the lines, so it's a lot of trial and error to get to that point.
Yeah. How long do you think it took you to get to that point?
I was still trying to get there. But
you've gotten there, trust me.
Yeah, but as far as I would say, probably maybe 3 years when I really started realizing, okay, if I do it this way now, I think I can cut some corners so it won't take me 8 million hours to finish something, and I can get it done in a more realistic time period. Because of course, when you're trying to sell work, how long it takes, is part of how you charge.
Right.
So
exactly.
if it's taking me days after days to finish something, then I'm either going to make pennies on the hour, or I have to figure out a way how to cut back on the time. So it was real important that I, like you said, kind of like document and try to figure out what I was doing to make something work better the next time.
Well, do you use like normal scissors or?
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm one of the ones. I've rarely used like X-Acto blades and stuff. I have used them, but traditionally I just use a sharp pair of scissors. Just have gotten good with a good pair of sharp scissors. A lot of collage artists don't use scissors. They use X-Actos or swivel blades and so forth. I just prefer to use a good old-fashioned pair of scissors. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Well, okay. So so you've mastered collage, but like, when did you start with collage? I guess.
Absolutely not. I've done everything from landscape to abstract. Before the collage, I was primarily an abstract artist.
Okay.
And after looking at, I hate to say your competition, because that's not really how you want to refer to it, but you're trying to, exactly. But you're trying to make a living off of it. So it's one of those things where, I realized everybody and their mama's doing collages. I mean, not collages, but portraits or abstracts.
Right.
So I'm like, well, I need to figure out a way how to differentiate myself. And, with Bearden being from Charlotte, and I'm from Charlotte, I was like, that's a good, way to maybe, re-identify myself as a collage artist. Is, kind of piggybacking off of what Bearden had did, 60, 70 years prior to me, even thinking about it. And so I, started doing it. And funny story is that, of course, I used to teach art, high school art. And
where?
I taught at West Charlotte High School, and also taught at Harding University High School here in Charlotte. So those are two different schools I taught at. But within both schools, I would do a collage lesson at some point, because I'll be teaching about Bearden.
Yeah.
So I would do samples for the kids to see, so they have an idea of what the collage looked like. And I did a student show one time, and I showed some of my work also. And then collectors are starting to come, and parents are coming, and other artists. They're like, you should be doing collage. I mean, I know you love abstract, but your collage stuff is a lot more.
Wow. I mean, I just think that's amazing. So, I mean, like, what is, okay, so you did abstract and you did, so that was with like paint or like what medium did you?
Yeah, primarily acrylic. I mean, I have done oils and so forth, but primarily acrylic paints, some pastels and so forth, but primarily acrylic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what I guess what is your process? Like how do you decide what to do? Okay. This is a multifaceted question. I'm trying to
Okay.
how
Mm-hmm.
do you how do you decide what to, I guess, how do you decide a subject for your piece?
Mm-hmm.
And like what kind of, okay, this I gotta do better now. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
um okay, for the cherub statue. Okay, well, all of your pieces
Mm-hmm.
are untitled, and that's just frustrating.
Yeah, a
why
lot
do
of them
why do
are
you do that?
untitled. Yeah. A lot of cases, I just can't come up with a name for it. Sometimes the names like just come to me real easy, and I'll name something. But a lot of times, I'm like, I have no idea what the name is, so I'll post something on Facebook and like, hey, can someone come up with a name? Whoever has the the neatest name, that's what it's going to be, and
Okay.
that's literally how a lot of them are named. But as far as the process, sometimes I have an idea of what I want to do. Sometimes I literally just go straight to the canvas and just start gluing paper down. And when I see something looks interesting, I might start pushing it in that direction. But with the last show that I had at 918.9 was a gentrification show. So that was planned. It wasn't planned initially. Initially, that's just what a few pieces came to end up being. And then I said, well, you know what? I can just keep pushing this idea. And it just kept growing and growing. It went from like, I think 2 or 3 pieces. Then I was like, you know what? Well, I'm going to shoot for 10. And I was like, well, maybe I can shoot for 20. And then I started thinking about Jacob Lawrence's migration series, which is 60 pieces, and it was split up between 2 different museums. And I was like, I wonder if I can get to 60 pieces and maybe split them up and take, half of them go to this place and the other half go to that place. I didn't get to 60, but I did get to 50. And that was kind of a challenge for myself, just to see if I could come up with enough images and so forth and subject matter that wouldn't look like I'm doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of how that particular series manifested. And I started out just doing the neighborhood I was, grew up in, and then it got to the point where it's like, okay, I need to move outside the neighborhood, because if not, all the pictures are going to start looking the same. So I said, well, there's other neighborhoods within the city and within the nation that all dealing with gentrification. So I just started going to other neighborhoods that I grew up in, or played in or visited when I was throughout my lifetime, and started including them within that 50-piece series.
That's wow. That's fantastic. The one that's my favorite is it's called Untitled, of course, and but it's got the cherub statue in the bottom left, and it's got the snail, and it's got houses. Oh my gosh,
okay.
that
I know
one,
which one you're talking
that
about.
one blew me away. I was like, oh my gosh, that is.
So that's funny that you're saying that one. So that sheriff statue actually was it was a statue in a store. I forget what store it was, like old time pottery or something like that. And I thought it was a neat looking statue, so I took the statue and hid the tag in the back, and took a picture of it in the store. And that's kind of that. Yeah, that's where that image ended up from. But that was a surreal image. So I love surrealism.
Yeah,
that's one of the genres I just like as an artist. And I actually did 1, 2, I think it was about 3 or 4 in that that context. They didn't all have the Sherpins, but they're all the same size and had that weird that weird feel to it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I like surrealism too, but I mean there's I don't know, and I'm sure I'm not. I mean, I'm sure people like would. I personally, surrealism can be very weird to me, and
yes, it can.
It's if you do it, and I'm going to say if you do it right, it doesn't look weird, but maybe that's wrong. Maybe it's supposed to look weird. I think a lot of I like Dahlia a lot, but I think a lot of his stuff is just too weird.
some of his stuff is way out there.
Yeah. But
But
I
think
think,
about how he used to make his pieces. Though. I don't know if you know the story behind where a lot of his ideas came from, but
I
that would
don't.
make sense as to, well, he used to engage in drugs very
Oh,
frequently. So he would say that he would do the drugs and he would deprive himself of sleep till he would start hallucinating.
oh,
and
wild.
and a lot of those images supposed to represent hallucinations that he would have between drinking and tripping and so forth and so on. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's so now it makes sense as to why
It makes
someone
sense
looks so.
now.
Yeah, yeah. So that's supposedly the story. And Dolly's wife was a marketing genius. She was a marketing
Yeah.
major. So her concept was any publicity is good publicity.
Right.
The more outlandish you are, the easier it's going to be to get people to look at you. So that's how he ended up growing his mustache out to look like
Yeah.
the little.
Yeah.
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 So it was kind of a combination of him and his wife that kind of came up with his
His
unique style.
persona. Yeah. That's
Right.
very fortunate for him that she was in marketing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Definitely.
So that's wild. I didn't know that. That's super cool. So who are some of your favorite artists? Who do you take I guess inspiration from?
Yeah, so I've always, of course, like Bearden's work.
Romare Bearden.
Like I tell people, I mean, I like his work. I don't want to be Bearden though. Jacob Lawrence, probably one of my favorite painters is Ernie Barnes, who most people was familiar with his work through the sitcom Good Times. The paintings that you would see on the
Oh.
yeah. So JJ didn't do the paintings. That was Ernie Barnes. Yeah, the painter is Ernie Barnes. He's actually from North Carolina also.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
yes, so he was from Durham, North Carolina, and so he I really love his work a lot. Of course, I like Da Vinci and Picasso and some of the standard greats and so forth. But I would say Jacob Lawrence and Ernie Barnes. Those are definitely two of my top. Faith Ringo, and there's a artist that doesn't really get a whole lot of publicity, but look her up sometimes. Sue Cole, just
Sue
Sue and then Coe Coe.
Coe.
Yeah, I know she's on Instagram. I'm sure she's throughout. You can just look her up. But
Okay.
she came to our school in college and did like a talking and speaking engagement and then like a book sell and stuff. So I follow her on Instagram, but you talk about politically charged and surreal type of work. That's her stuff all day long.
Awesome. Now, where did you go to school?
Western Carolina. It's in the mountains of North Carolina.
Oh, very cool.
So about 3 miles west of Charlotte. 3 hours west of Charlotte. Yeah, I'm like,
that's not far at all.
Yeah, I could walk there. Yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah, I've never heard of her. That's very cool.
Yep, in the cut, as we would say, it's in the mountains.
Yeah. I never heard that either. In the cut.
Okay, yeah, that's a North Carolina slang.
That's what's wild. So I grew up here too. So that's pretty cool. In the cut. I'm learning all kinds of stuff.
That's funny. That's hilarious.
So I was going to ask you, and I forget what it was that you even used this on, but what's aluminum panel?
Okay, so another artist is actually at matter of fact, Joanne's husband, author. Some of the paintings he's started noticing he was doing them on these aluminum panels, which are light. They're just very lightweight and they're very sturdy. So because they're so flat and sturdy, they just work real well with collaging on. So he's the one that kind of turned me on to it. So I started using them. They're little, I guess, panel for panel. They're not that expensive, but you buy them in a big, large sheet, and they're like the sheet's like 5 feet by 8 feet. And I think it's like about $80 a panel, and you can have them cut them down to what size I need them. So, depending on what size I get them cut, depending on how many I can get out of it. But they work real well. Like I said, the fact they're lightweight. So if I want to go real big, so now they're not going to be real heavy. So when you frame them, you're not adding the extra weight to your wall and to your piece. When I do stuff on wood, the problem with wood gets real heavy. And then
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then and then some of the other substrates like masonite board, it works fine small, but when you start getting big, it starts to bow because it's a form of wood. So the aluminum panel just eliminates, both of those
Right.
aspects. You don't get the bowing, and you don't have the weight. With canvas, sometimes when too much paper gets on the canvas, it starts to kind of sink in a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
And then the canvas boards is basically canvas on cardboard. So over time, cardboard can start to dissipate. So the aluminum panels have worked well. I don't use them all the time, but when I have the money and the means, I'll buy as many as I can, and I'll use the panels.
Right. But you said that they have to cut them at the
Yeah, I mean,
store.
I could cut them myself, but it's easier just to get
Yeah,
them to
yeah.
cut them
Yeah.
for me. I just tell them how get as many of them as you can at this size, and
Right.
then they'll just do the calculations and cut them for me, because they're fairly thin. They're only like an eighth of an inch thick.
Okay.
So like I said, it's just real convenient, and the place is right up the street from me, so it all kind of just worked out.
And you get them at a hardware store or?
No, it's actually a sign place. They use them to
Oh,
make the signs to they print the signs on and then put them in the ground. Some people put them on the sides of the buildings and so forth. So it's a sign company that
okay.
they a lot of the sign companies use those aluminum panels to
Okay.
to make
Okay.
signs with. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, because I had read that you said a collage on canvas, and
Right.
I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, how do you just use glue or like how?
Yeah, different types of glues, and there was a lot of trial and error trying to figure out what glues work best for the different surfaces, the different types of papers. For instance, I've been doing some pieces using some old Life magazines from like the '60s,
Yeah, yeah.
and the paper's
Those are
already
awesome.
about exactly. Oh, the images are awesome, but the paper is real brittle because
Yeah,
it's so old.
because it's so
So
old.
if I use like a thick gel medium, I can potentially tear the paper. If I
Hmm.
try to use something like Mod Podge, it has a lot of water already in it, so I get buckles with the paper. So
Hmm.
it's just been a lot of trial and error, just trying to figure out what type of glue works best with what kind of paper, what works better, sticking to canvas versus wood versus aluminum panels. Do I need to scratch up the aluminum panel a little bit so when I put the glue on it, it'll stick a little bit better? And so again, a lot of that's been trial and error. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
and once you figure out what works the best, then you just kind of stick with it, and you just know at that point.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's your favorite, I guess, thing to stick things on, like
Um, I would. I don't know if I have a favorite, but I would say that the aluminum panel works the best.
best?
But the flip side to that is when you're talking about collectors and selling work, because you could collage on a piece of paper if you wanted to,
Right, right.
or a piece of cardboard or whatever. But
Mhm.
the substrates, a lot of times, certain collectors want to see certain substrates.
Mhm.
So it's a lot harder to sell a collage on paper
Yeah.
at a high price than it would be on a canvas.
Right.
So the canvas tends to just hold more value
Mhm.
as a material in the art world. So the aluminum panel, I talk it up, and
Uh-huh.
I'm really kind of marketing and selling the
Yeah.
idea that the aluminum panel is the next,
The
the
next
big
big thing.
thing, and a lot of people love the idea of on wood
Uh,
because a lot of the old artists they couldn't afford canvas,
right.
so painting on wood and stuff was
Was
a normal thing. So doing it on wood gives a lot of the collectors the sense that it's someone is doing something that was done 50 years ago or 100 years ago, whatever it may be. So
right.
so you got to kind of look at that aspect also. So sometimes you can say, okay, well, I'm gonna do it on this one because I know I can probably yield a little bit more out of it, but if it's gonna cause issues, I might have to go to this. So again,
Right.
you never know which one's gonna work best. And
Right. Well, I had never thought about that. I mean, I guess I just assumed that collages, you do them on paper. That's
right.
what I've done, which I certainly not a
Mm-hmm.
professional collagist. I wouldn't sell any of
Mm-hmm.
them, but I mean, but like I remember reading what was on Canvas. I was like, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Would never have thought of that. And
Yeah,
then the
and
aluminum
yeah.
panel. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah, and I did a lot of them on canvas originally. And it took a little while getting used to it, because one of the issues I ran into early on was if you don't get the glue on real good at first, I'd find myself having to go back in and like literally slit, cut the images, slit them, and then put glue up under where it didn't get in good. And then, what you use to seal it is real important also, as far as, the final presentation, because if you don't seal them, Lord knows what'll happen 100 years from now. All your paper might just dry rot off the canvas or something.
That's another
if you
thing.
don't, if you don't seal them. And I had to learn the hard way, just something as simple as UV rays from the sun. If, depending on how you store them, but too many UV rays hit them, then your paper starts turning yellow, like like an old photograph and so forth. So you have to think about that also when you're trying to think about the long haul, because again, you don't want someone to pay thousands of dollars for a piece of artwork and then 10 years from now it changes colors on the wall or something. That's kind of messed up.
Wow. This is like, I don't know. I just never, this is stuff I never thought of.
I didn't think of it either until I think one of my first collages from a long time ago. I was like, that's not the color it was when I first did it. It's yellow now. Now, it just so happened that gave this vintage look. But I realized that the polyurethane that I used to seal it was not a UV based polyurethane. So even though it was sealed, it was still collecting too much sunlight, and it started turning a yellowish tint, just like anything else will if it gets too much sunlight. So, just understanding that stuff, as you go, looking at a lot of trial and error, and you just get better with it, and you say, okay, this doesn't work, so I won't use that no more. And certain, even with certain glues just don't stick as good as other glues. I mean, just something as simple as, like Mod Podge. Some people love Mod Podge, which is fine, but certain types of paper, Mod Podge doesn't work well with, because again, it's about as close to Elmer's glue as you're going to get when you think of, the consistency. So it's full of water. So if your paper already has moisture in it, then it's just doubling the moisture. And if it's humid outside, or it's humid in your room and you're trying, it's all kinds of scenarios that will make a collage not work.
That's wild. A lot of science involved in collage.
Believe it or not, it is. You wouldn't believe how many times I'm sitting there with a blow dryer as I'm trying to paste stuff down, because the glue won't dry fast enough. Because like, for instance, if you're trying to glue down, and a lot of stuff is, even though it's collage, I do a lot of mixed media also. So if I'm trying to glue some yarn down or some buttons or something like that, you need the glue to dry fast. If not, it's going to just fall off the page or something. So you got like blow dryers. I get probably like 5 blow dryers trying to blow dry the piece, so it'll dry fast, and putting masking tape over it to let it sit, and then pull the masking tape off, after it's set in place long enough. But again, you learn all kinds of tricks of the trade when trying to do stuff like that. Tricks of the trade. Yep.
That's insane. This is like stuff I never thought of. I've never done any serious collage. I on like poster board and like glue stick and things like that, or my media of choice.
I still use glue sticks. I use glue sticks. I go through a ton of glue sticks. I mean, one collage I could, just your traditional glue sticks, I can go through 5 or 6 glue sticks on a little small 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So yes, but glue sticks, because I think when you really think about it, I don't know if we used to use paste growing up. Before you had wet glue, you had the paste. Basically that's what a glue stick is. It's really a stick of paste. Paste always did pretty good. So you get enough glue from the glue stick on the back of the paper, it'll stick to most items, at least give you an initial stick, and then you can add other stuff to it or whatever to make sure it doesn't come up afterwards.
Well, how do you I guess like how is your eyesight after you do a collage? I mean, because
my eyesight is already bad,
but like you have such detail and such like intricate, just the small little things that fit together. I mean, How do you do that?
I don't know. Can't figure that one out because it's getting harder and harder as I get older. I'll tell you that. So,
yeah.
But yeah, just being careful. One thing you gotta understand, like with collage, like if I'm cutting a person out and I accidentally cut their hand off, it's not a big deal because I just glue the hand where it should have been.
Right.
So mistakes aren't as, I guess, detrimental as it would be if you're painting.
It's a little more forgiving.
You know, exactly. Yeah. If you accidentally cut the head off, then hey, I just
stick it back on.
Stick it back on. And if you're using, like in a lot of cases with myself, if I'm printing my own, if I'm doing my own photography work, then I can print my own stuff out. So I mess something up, I just print it out again and try it again, or glue it on top of it, or whatever it may be. So you actually have more leeway and it's more forgiving than most of the other arts. So I would say in that respect, it's a little easier.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seems like looking at your stuff. It would just seem like I would have like a huge headache. Like after if I were doing it, I would be like, oh my gosh.
Well, I will say this: if you don't, in a lot of cases, I have to get to a certain point before I can stop. Because if you don't, first of all, you trying to remember why you stopped there or what you were trying to do, that can be difficult. But I typically work from top to bottom, foreground. So basically your top would be your background, then your middle ground, and the bottom would represent your foreground. So just always think in general, what's in the back's gonna be smaller and what's at the bottom is gonna be bigger. So I lay the background down first, then start stacking stuff on top of each other, because if you do it the opposite way, it's not going to look realistic at all. It's going to look like people like levitating and stuff, and that's not what I'm looking for.
So what you're about.
Yeah, if you do it the other way, your people might not come out so good. That'd be kind of like paint. Yeah, it'd be kind of like trying to paint your background first on a picture and then trying to paint the person after the background. Anyway, you end up with a whole lot of not good effects.
Well, this is an awesome. What is coming up for you? Are you doing any other shows coming up?
Right now I'm kind of steering my focus on trying to get back to getting rid of some of this surplus that I have as far as the work's concerned. Because all last year the whole goal was the objective was, I had 2 shows that I was putting on, the gentrification show and then the show before that. So like that's what that all last year was pretty much about, getting those together. The year before that was more or less about sales. So this year I'm gonna try to get back into doing more sales and working on getting the gentrification shows to Western, doing homecoming in late October is when homecoming is. So I'm still trying to work some logistics out to see if I'm gonna be able to have that show up there for a week during the homecoming activities in their gallery at West Carolina University. So that would be officially the second potential place for it in North Carolina, because I wanted to show it 2 or 3 times in North Carolina before I start shipping it out to other states.
Okay. Awesome. And where can people get in touch with you if they want to see your stuff?
On social media, on Facebook, So Talented Miles, Instagram, So Talented M, TikTok, So Talented Miles. So it's typically just a derivative of So Talented Miles. But So Talented, typically mine pops up with the miles behind it. So
cool.
I think those I'm not really on Twitter much. It's So Talented Miles on Twitter too, but I don't really use Twitter like that.
Right. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Trey. I really appreciate you talking with me. I'm glad this worked out.
Same. Like I said, I apologize for last week. Like I said,
no worries.
But I figured we'd make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad we did, because this your work is amazing, and I'm so I don't know. It's just like one of those things. Like when I remember, like when I think something, when I think one way, and then I realize that I'm like totally wrong. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, and not that it was that I was thinking that, but it was just like a total like, I mean, like just just I don't know. I can't even explain it. It's just like that it's thinking that I wasn't thinking that you were the magnitude that you are. I didn't think that collage could be that way.
Could be that way. That's a good way to put it. Had you had a chance to look at my website?
Yes.
Okay, cool beans.
Well, I looked at your Instagram, and yes, I looked at your websites. Yeah.
Okay, cool beans. Yeah, I was gonna say that's somewhere else people could potentially look at some of the work too. That's just milesofdesignstudio.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I will let you know when this posts.
All right, sounds great.
Have a great day.
Same to you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much to John Miles, aka Trey, for chatting with me and schooling me on all things collage. You can check out his work at milesofdesignstudio.com and most social media at So Talented Miles. Thanks for listening. This is a Hotspur Media production. Music by Corey Knoxville.